Hey guys, Milo here and welcome back to Tongues and Typos. So this will be my first Authortube video for this channel, and as every Authortube channel, you have to do the newbie tag. First, let me introduce myself more as a writer. My name is actually not Milo, that's my nom de plume, but that's what I use when it comes to anything that's outwardly towards the public. Things about me. Aside from being a writer, I'm actually a cosplayer. I'm an engineering student as well as a linguistic enthusiast, but I feel like you already knew that one from, the whole tongues and typos thing. Anyway, so I'm going to do our little questionnaire for the newbie tag. And I have them all right here, pre-written, because you know what? I'm not really good at winging it. I have to have something to go off of. All right, so your first question for me will be, how did you hear about Authortube? Well, I heard about Authortube through my friend Kate Cavanaugh. Actually, that's a lie. I experienced Authortube through my friend Kate Cavanaugh. Basically, I had no idea what it was. I just knew that she was very passionate about it, so I decided to watch some of her videos. And honestly, I loved the community aspect of it, and yeah, it really intrigued me, and I thought, you know what, I have different things to talk about. I also need more motivation for anything. And I actually met Kate Cavanaugh in college. We actually joined the same writing club, she was the president from what I remember. Yes, she was the president, and I was the random engineering student who had passions that were not coding. Actually, I kind of hate coding. Don't tell my professors. Anyway, yeah, so we met in the writing club, and yeah, we did our first nano, which I did not do successfully because, engineering student, you pretty much don't do anything successfully except for being an engineering student. But we kept close. We've been in contact ever since, and honestly, I can probably say, aside from like one other, she's probably my oldest friend. So, question number 2. What genres do you write in? Well, I pretty much will write in urban fantasy, sci-fi, and mythological fiction. I do love high fantasies. However, I sort of like the relatability of urban fantasies, and what kind of got me into writing, well, got a stronger motivation into writing, was reading the Percy Jackson series. And I really, really love that series because it marries growing up as a kid, because I was doing that at the time of reading these, and it blended my love for mythology, and it kind of grounded it into something that I can more relate to, you know? All right, so question number 3 is, what is your preferred tense, point of view, and category? So for my favorite tense, it would probably be past tense. Not because I have some random infatuation for it, more so it's just the de facto way I write. As for my point of view, it typically is going to be first person limited, just because I feel that it's the most natural way for me to express motivations, thoughts for my characters. I tried third person, and it's not that it was bad writing, it just wasn't my favorite, and why write something that you're not in love with? As for category, that's not something I really think about. When I was starting out, I was in college, well, starting out more seriously. I've honestly been writing since elementary school, but when it comes to when I was starting to really seriously write and try to draft things out, I guess I was writing YA because my characters were set in college, but that was only because my worldview was limited to that of college, and I really wanted nothing to do with high school. Whereas now I tend to do what I would consider a young adult. However, it has nothing to do with college or high school or coming of age, so I guess it's kind of a blend between YA and NA, but honestly, I don't try to categorize them, and that may be a bit of a faux pas. It may bite me in the butt when I get to querying, but you know what? Until then, I'm just going to write what I like, and I'm sure it shouldn't, well, I hope it's not too hard to tweak. All right, so question 4, I kind of tweaked the wording on it just to be something more relatable for me. It's basically, are you an outliner or a discovery writer? And as much as I would want to be an outliner, I just can't. That being said, I'm not entirely a discovery writer either, because I can't just go with the seat of my pants. And again, I understand that's where pantser comes from. That being said, I'm not so certain I'm a blend of it either. My method is sort of a shotgunny method, whereas I will plan out the individual scenes that I like, that kind of jump out of me into my psyche, and then I'll write those individual scenes. I don't try to connect them that heavily when I'm starting out. What I will do is I will write those scenes because those are typically what vividly come into my head. And as I've found through writing is that the more I try to weave those scenes together at the onset, the more laggy it gets, and honestly, the more inclined I am to give up on the project, which is something I've had a tendency towards. But yeah, if I do these individual scenes, which are like bursts of vivid insight, I can write them independently as I want them. And then I find it's easier to connect the dots once I have a pure scene done. Because it's easier to tweak something that's already written than to try to force something to lead into something else. And so, I mean, I guess if you want to say I'm in the middle of the road, you can, but I'm not so entirely sure it works like that. Question number 5. What is my publishing status? Yeah, considering I'm a full-time student who just got done with a 6-year hiatus of performing full-time, yeah, I am still yet to be a published author because there's a lot of time constraints in my life, which I'm trying to fight through. That's what making this channel is to try to push me into. But yeah, I would love to be a published author, but just not there yet. And, you know, there are other things in my life that I need to prioritize. All right, so number 6 is, what is your dream publishing house and or agent? I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what publishing house or what agent is conducive to me. I'm not that far along in my writing. I've not finished a full draft before. Well, I've finished a full draft, but I've not done anything that I've wanted to query anywhere near that. So no, I have no idea what kind of agents would be more conducive for me. I haven't researched that. None of that's on my radar at all. So question number 7 is, what Authortube videos are we to expect from you from your channel? Honestly, I've put no thought into that. Obviously, there'll be some vloggy stuff, but I'm kind of winging this. It's going to be things that I think are worth saying. I'm also, considering I'm not a published writer, although I've beaten my head with all the ways you can't become a published writer, I'm not one. So I don't think giving you advice is something that I should do. I can tell you what I do and why I like it, and I probably will. Sorry, I'm a very outspoken person. I most definitely will. But by no means is it me telling you that that's how you should write, or that's the best way to write, or that's even going to work for me. Again, not published. So any advice I give probably won't be verbatim advice. It'll be me just saying this tends to work for me. You know what I mean? So question number 8, when did you start writing? I think I actually remember vaguely starting writing in the 3rd grade. And with that, I actually started writing a comic book. Not that I actually read comic books then. I do now. Although only after they become graphic novels because I'm way too lazy to go periodically to a bookstore. I mean, a comic book store. Yeah, so in 3rd grade, I made this comic book series about these little, like, I don't know, little chibi slime type weird, like, monstery things. Honestly, they looked like, if you remember Digimon, they're like those in training level Digimon. You know, like they're all like a floating head with like some kind of appendage or something. It was about them, and they didn't really evolve. No, they didn't really evolve. They just gained powers that they inherently had, like naturally, like a base power. And then their goal was to collect these Shaolin Showdown style artifacts and to prevent them from getting into the wrong hands, and then use them to eventually defeat the overarching bad guy. So, I mean, it was fun. I enjoy it. I actually wonder where they are actually right now. It could be something I could view later in life, obviously with a more developed concept. But I should find those. If I do, I may make a video about that. So, question number 9 is, what was the first thing you wrote? And I did already kind of tell you about the comic book thing I did, but if we're talking about legitimate stories, the first thing I ever wrote, and this is what kind of tuned me in to realize that I really love writing, because first things first, for me, I love writing big notebooks. I love writing things, making lists, categorizing things. I don't know. There's something entrancing about a fresh notebook. So with that, I have a huge collection of them. I've never finished them, except when I was working on this specific project. This project was about these kids who got these amulets from somewhere, something. It's an old story, but they got these amulets, and at the time, I was super in love with the elements. And honestly, this was still before Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I think I had like 8 elements because I didn't think earth, wind, fire, and water was sufficient. So I added like electricity, thunder, which is like sound energy, ice, because in my head, water was like a fluid type thing, like in terms of physics, like, I mean, chemistry, like states of matter, whereas ice was something having to do with like freezing and like less so to do with the material itself, more so to do with the concept of slowing down molecules. And I cannot remember what the other one was. Nature. I think I separated Earth out into nature and Earth. Earth being the inanimate mineral type manipulation, kind of like Toph in The Last Airbender, whereas nature was more like generating plants, so like a blend between like swamp bending, again from Avatar, and what poison ivy could do. So yeah, that was that story. And because it allowed me to finish, like, I filled 3 journals up with just a full consecutive linear story, it kind of told me that that's what I really like doing. All right, so question number 10 is, what authors have inspired you in writing the most? And honestly, there's none other that come to my head aside from, I mean, Rick Riordan right here. Like, don't get me wrong, I've read Harry Potter, I love J.K. Rowling, and when it comes to Tolkien, I mean, his world building skills are phenomenal. And I try to take as many pages from his books without writing a legitimate textbook on my worlds. But with Rick Riordan, he sort of brought writing to me. As I was reading them, it kept filling my brain with these amazing worlds of mythology, things that I've always written about and always read about and loved. But he put a modern twist on it. He put kids like me, involved with it. And honestly, it sort of ignited my imagination. And from that point forward, my concept of writing has sort of evolved from my love of his concept. So that's probably where my urban fantasy infatuation started. Question number 11. Do you schedule your writing, or do you do it when you can? I mean, my schedule is incredibly hectic. There is no regularity to it whatsoever. So it's going to be whenever I can make time. Question number 12. Do you write on a computer, typewriter, or do you write things out? So in the last year and a half or so, just basically out of convenience, I started writing on my computer. But to be honest, that's not how I natively write. And I've actually switched back since seeing Kate Cavanaugh's video about writing like Neil Gaiman, and subsequently watching the referenced interview with him on Tim Ferriss's podcast. And it just reminded me that I used to write by hand. Not because I didn't have a computer, because, I mean, I've always had access to a computer, so it wasn't a problem. It's just, there's something about the tactile aspect of writing that sort of pulls me in a little bit more. That being said, unlike Neil Gaiman, I tend to use pencil because I'm a little bit redactive in how I write. I can't really stray too far from an eraser. That being said, I'm not going to autocorrect every paragraph consistently. But, if I want to reword a sentence that I just wrote, I'm not going to leave it and wait in future edits if I know exactly how I want it to go, And in terms of where I write, see this nice little pretty desk right here? Yeah, I don't use it whatsoever. Actually, I tend to write at Starbucks. So here's the thing with it. Yes, I'm a coffee junkie, but it's honestly more the fact that I get to be around people without being around people. You feel? So I'm sort of an ambivert, but leaning more towards the introverted side. So I don't tend to like talking to people unless I know them. I have a rapport with them and I know that they have opinions that I value and I actually want to. So I really don't like talking to people most of the time. Clearly I can. I mean, I've been a performer for years, improvisational performer actually. And with that, like I have to be able to talk to people. I have to be able to talk to people about random things. So like, I can get my point across. I don't like doing it, but when I'm getting paid to do it, I'll do it. So I like going to Starbucks because basically, aside from having coffee basically intravenously put into my body, I have this ability to plug myself into my headphones, my computer's in front of me, or my notepad, or whatever, and I still get the energy of all the people around me. It's just about seeing the liveliness of other people. It sort of just invigorates me, you know? Or maybe you don't. I don't know. All right, so the last question number 13, which is really a lucky number, so I don't know why we end on 13. But it is, what are you looking forward to about Authortube? Aside from the community aspect of it, and I don't know, being able to experience what my friend Kate Cavanaugh has been hyping for the past 2 years, is that more so, it's going to push me to write. It's going to push me to keep writing on my brain. Even while I'm making these videos, I'm going to be doing, I'm hoping, to do sprints, to be reporting back to you, to talk through things with you. And with that, it's going to keep it on the forefront of my brain, to keep me from forgetting what I'm actually doing. And it's not that I ever forget that I want to write. I always want to write. It's just I'm sort of a multi-potentialite. And in that, I have a lot of interests. Like I cosplay, I sew, which ties into the cosplaying. I love computer engineering. Well, I love the electronic aspect of it and the prospect for like what it can do for the world. Less so the coding half. And I love linguistics and I love learning languages. I'm actually trilingual right now and I'm working on my 4th. So I have a lot of things in my brain. And I have a lot of books that I like reading. Reference books. I know, I'm weird. I read reference, I write fiction. Yeah, so honestly, all in all, this is for me to get motivated and finish a draft because I have all these stories in my head and I want to get them out. Hopefully published, but you know what? It's not even about that. It's just about getting things to paper and having something physical in front of me that is wholly from me, something I created. And yeah, I just think that'd be really cool. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, guys. My name is Milo, and this is Tongues and Typos. So please subscribe below, and I will also, as a little treat, link down the 2 videos on Kate Cavanaugh's channel that I may have participated in when I had different dyed hair and had an issue with not wearing anything at all but Lululemon warm-ups, because I did. A bit obsessed. They're really comfortable, but you know, my vanity has since won out. Although you really couldn't tell. I may be wearing them right now. Anyway, see ya.